Hello everyone. For today's webinar, I'm very glad to welcome Marc Vandar, who is responsible of the product and portfolio definition for CATIA Core Engineering. Marc will invite on stage 3 other experts, such as Edouard Sutre, ready for live demonstrations. Together, they will introduce you to a great new web application enabling many more designers, engineers, and architects to easily and quickly design simple but also complex shapes. Thank you to those who already sent us questions. Just after the webinar, we will answer you directly, and we will also publish the questions and all the answers in the CATIA user community, where you can also find the webinar recording. I hand over to Marc now and wish you a very interesting webinar.
Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar about 3D generative innovator and especially one new web application which is called X Generative Design. So first we've created this new product because there is an important trend in the design industry right now, which is about creating some shapes and designs that are inspired by nature, using some complex shapes and complex patterns like you can see in these examples. So we've created a dedicated tools in the Dassault Systèmes portfolio to be able to do that. And so our answer is called CATIA X Generative Design. It's a new web application. So this new application, it's made to design, explore, and validate variants of complex, repetitive, and non-regular shapes and patterns using an intuitive algorithmic approach. So we will illustrate all that in a lot of examples in an introduction demonstration also. So let's go in detail. So first, Edouard, you will show us a live demo to introduce the product and what it's all about and what are the fundamentals of the product.
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, I will start from scratch with a simple scenario. The idea is more to cover the basics of the application and to let you discover some user experience tricks also and how to use the application and to take benefit of it rapidly.
Okay.
Okay. So I will start, you see, I'm in a web application, so in my browser, using Chrome, for example, with a widget maximized, in fact, in my dashboard.
Okay.
And the idea, I will just highlight the first panel of this application by creating, for example, helix geometry.
Okay.
So you will discover this new kind of panels. In fact, it's close to traditional panels for like GSD or part design application. You have to fill input fields in order to compute the feature.
But there is a new way to navigate between the links of the
I will show that in fact.
Yes.
Exactly. For example, to start my design, I need a starting point, and to do so, I can select through the 3D. Okay. But also, I can, for example, clear the input and create on the fly a specific point, for example, here. And I will move it using the robot in the space, like that, for example.
So you have some 3D manipulators to position your point.
Yeah. And I go back to the helix command. So I navigate through different features.
Okay.
I will do the same for the axis. For example, for the moment, I have no axis to select, so I have to create an axis. I can use this plus button and this menu to go to the creation of my axis.
Okay.
For that, I will create a line using a point. I can use this menu to rapidly retrieve my reference point also. So at the origin, and do the same for some plane, or also I can directly pick it through the 3D.
Okay. And so the helix has been created.
Yeah. And I go back to the helix definition, and I can change some other parameters, like you see. And you see all the inputs are now in green color.
Yeah, it means that you can validate your creation, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I will move it a little, like that. And I have my first 3D geometry created.
Okay.
Then I will, in fact, try to split this curve with a certain number of points. So for that, I use the divide command. And you can divide by a number, for example, but you can also divide, changing zero operator like that, divide by using a length, for example.
Okay, and so this is one of the fundamentals of the application, is that you're able to create very quickly a collection of objects. Here we are creating a collection of points, and to manage all this collection at once. So you can create some geometric operation on the collection, but this is what we will illustrate after.
Yeah. So this number, in fact, I think it will be really important for my design. So the idea is to make it easy to reuse and to do not have to retrieve this parameter each time I need it in other features. So for that, in fact, you can create an explicit parameter, replacing this implicit value by something really strong. So I will create this parameter like that, and I will rename it, for example, my divide parameter.
Okay, so it's an important parameter of your design, so you just isolate it in some point.
And also I will publish it. It's like a favorite parameter for me. So the idea with this button is to create some favorite features in order to retrieve them rapidly after
everywhere in your design.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I will quit like that. So you see the points now. First, I will rotate the points. So using the same axis like that.
To create a second list of points.
Exactly.
Shifted from the first one.
So you see here in details. And something interesting, you say that, in fact, now we are using some collection of objects.
Yes.
In fact, if I click one point and a second point, first you see the highlight. In fact, it takes not a single point, but the collection of the points. And second, when I create a line using my selection, in fact, it will not create a single line.
You create just the collection of lines that are based on the points. So doing that manually, it will take a lot of time, just selecting all the points and create all the lines. Here, in 3 clicks, you are able to create a set of lines and to manage it at once in one operation. This is really important for next generative design.
And something interesting also, you have some additional tools in this panel to better visualize the list in details of the lines you are creating.
Yeah, you manage the list, but you can also access to individual elements in the list.
Yeah. Okay, so I will continue my design. For example, I want to add the 3D geometry. So first I will, I think, hide my first helix.
Yeah.
And I will create some spheres like that. So I create a lot of spheres. So same story, you click, you have a collection of objects
that is created.
And you see the radius for the moment is not really good for my design. And to have something really robust and parametric, in fact, the idea through this menu is to reuse
the favorite parameter you had created.
Yeah, my divide parameter. And if it's not enough, you can also enrich that by adding a formula.
Okay.
Like I want to divide the value by 2, for example. And with this, if I change my divide parameter, it will also change the sphere radius and etc. It's parametric modeling.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do the same for
the other list of points.
Yes. So same story. You reuse this menu and the formula.
Okay.
And yeah, something interesting also. You know, you can validate clicking the OK button, but in fact there is also a lot of simple tricks in order to accelerators in order to rapidly model some complex stuff. Like for example, good to know, you can double click in the background to validate. It's something really powerful. Okay, then I will create a sweep surface using the lines as guide curve.
Okay.
And okay, same story, to have something really robust. I will reuse again my
parameter and create a new formula.
Yeah, and this time I will divide by 6, like that.
Okay.
So you see, in fact, it looks like a DNA, a 3D DNA rapidly. I think it's a good example to present the application rapidly.
Yeah. So you see most of the fundamentals of the application, creating rapidly a list of objects, managing the list at once, and creating geometric operation to the list.
Something interesting also. Once again, you remember this favorite parameter. In fact, you can retrieve it also if you just want to explore or to present your work to someone else, for example. So to do so, you just have to switch your design view to the controller's view in the spec tree, for example, like that. And this is a simplified view to just expose your favorite parameters. And with that, you can play with your model. For example, if I change this value by 5 millimeters, in fact, it will increase a lot and it will update all my model to explore different alternatives. And you see, I'm generating a lot of objects, in fact.
Yeah, and so here you just hide all the complexity of the design creation. You just expose one parameter which is important, and you make it available to anyone who wants to play with your model.
Yes. The last step, in fact, because I think for the moment we covered only half of the application.
Yes.
Something is also available for the users. It's another view of your design. It is called the graph view. In fact, it's the ability to have a different view of your design with inputs and outputs like a graph.
So here we have all the geometric operations that were done to create the model that are available. So each box of the graph is an operation. And you can see all the operation at once with all the links between the different elements. And you can so have some more actions. First, to understand what are the links and understand the complexity of your model. And then to create some advanced operations on your design.
And in fact, yeah, you can edit through the graph, you can change the links, you can manage the links, you can understand your design. It's really powerful also.
Yeah, and both views can be done in parallel. You can either choose to use the panel or the graph view. Both are available at all time.
Yeah, and in fact, when I create again a feature through the interactive window, it will add a box, and it's the same story. If I add a box, it will add it in the spec tree. You can retrieve it through the interactive window.
And you have a cross highlight, so if you select a box in the tree, it's highlighted in the 3D view.
For example, like that, the sphere. So I will continue a little the design, because in fact, I think the aim of the graph is also to go into the complexity of your model and to do complex stuff, in fact.
Yes.
So first, the idea of the graph is also you will retrieve more operators to do something, some other stuff like list management, for example, but also do some math and also a lot of complex operations.
Okay.
So my idea, in fact, is just to add some colors to this model. So to do so, first I will search some operators related to color topic, for example.
So we have a very powerful search on all the functions. So you just tap keywords and you're able to retrieve all the functions linked to color in the application.
Yeah, it's really easy to use. I will create also a sequence, for example. So like that, I will add a sequence. And also I need a size operator just to capture the number of the objects I want to reuse, for example. Okay. And also I will assemble my geometry. Okay. So I think for that I have all my bricks.
Okay. And so you have selected all your elements, but no links are created for the moment, and you can do that afterwards.
Yeah. So first, in fact, the idea is to assemble your geometry in order to apply the color
to all the elements.
So first, I will link the two spheres like that.
Two collections of spheres, in fact.
Yeah. And the sweep surface.
Okay.
Okay. So now I see everything, and also you have something called the watch operator in order to rapidly understand, and you see the cross highlight, in fact, to understand the list.
Yeah, and to retrieve all the elements of the list and see where they are and which is which.
So when I select through the graph, I can see it in the 3D view. It helps me to understand what I'm doing. Okay. Second, in fact, I will create a sequence for my gradient color in order to distribute blue to white to all the elements. And for that, in fact, I will use a size box like that. I will create my sequence using size as number of my sequence and do that.
Okay.
So the graph is really interesting also. You can create some regions. I take this opportunity to create, for example, some group in order to organize your design.
So
also.
if a group has a specific function, you create a specific box with the name and you can retrieve it easily.
Yeah. And after, I will use this color, and with a colorize operator, the idea is to apply that to your design. And I don't see a result. Okay, it's bad. I don't know why. I think we need to investigate a little. I will delete, in fact, the assemble, and I will apply it to the sweep, for example. So you see, and I will apply the color to the sweep again. Okay, so apparently it works. I think I can do that, in fact, without the assemble. So I will, you see the color, like that. In fact, it's easy to understand why some things are not really working. Because of the graph, you can link, unlink.
Understand all your results. And so the color were applied to all your cylinders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all I think for this short demonstration. I think we covered really simple stuff, but it was more to present the product live in the web browser.
Okay, so thank you, Edor. So it's all about the fundamentals of the application. So managing list of objects, collection of objects. We have two specific user interface dedicated to different use cases, and it's a web application. So now let's switch to the key values of the applications. So the first one, it's one platform, one data model, one collaboration environment. Generative Design is part of the 3D Experience platform, so everyone is sharing the same data, accessible at any time from anywhere. They are all stored in the platform. All the people can connect to the platform and work in parallel to the same data. It's a secured platform, so you have access rights management. Some people can access some part of the project, and so some are more limited. For example, you can choose very easily how to manage those rights. And it's also very easy to integrate and to open more your project to other collaborators, other people, just by giving them new access to the platform. Then it's about creating first simple shapes that you can combine to create very complex shapes and patterns, as we are managing collection of objects very easily. And thus giving you access to amplify the design process, as Edouard has shown in the demonstration. It's very easy to expose just some chosen parameters, and from there you are able to change those parameters and to do some drastic changes to your design.
Yeah, and in fact you can experiment during the design process. You don't have to wait the last part of your design and then try to play with some controllers. You can do also some experiment during the design phase.
The update is live. Okay, then interactive and 3D-centric modeling experience. It's, as we said, we have an easy-to-access user interface, which with the traditional panel, so you can very quickly understand the application and what you can do. And then, if you want to do something more complex or take it to a higher level, then you have the graph view, which gives you access to a lot of more functions and just to understand the complexity.
Yeah, and the best I think is, in fact, you can use both interfaces at the same time.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier also to go back to the 3D with subpanels and also 3D immersive manipulators in order to rapidly modify your design.
Right, which is in fact a third way to edit your design. Okay, so and as you've seen, it's also about all that kind of design could be done before in CATIA just using some scripting. So now you no longer need to do some scripts. You can just using those automation and graph boxes, you are able to do some kind of automation. So it's really giving these automation functions accessible to anyone, any designer, even non-experts. And it's also interesting because thanks to those tools, you can capture the best practices of your design in your company using those boxes and those kind of templates.
And yeah, something interesting also, of course, we are using CATIA modeler technology. So we will guarantee a digital continuity, and we will be able to reuse, in fact, the design for downstream activities, or using with templates, engineering templates, for example. Yeah. Detailed design, template instantiation, manufacturing preparation.
Etc. It's all based on the CATIA kernel, so it's the same level of quality for the geometry, and you can reuse it everywhere in all the CATIA applications. So we were talking about digital continuity and collaboration. So we've really focused on the application which is called Generative Design, but X generative design is part of what we call a role, which is a set of applications allowing you to collaborate on different aspects. So you have, for example, 3D space to import and collect all your data at the same place to share across the project. You have some collaborative application like collaborative tasks and collaborative lifecycle to manage your data and the maturity state of your data, for example.
But it's easy widgets to use.
Yes,
in fact, it's
right.
not the complete solution to manage PLM stuff. It's just how to rapidly duplicate, create an evolution, lock, unlock. Exactly. All the basic stuff.
There are also a web application available. We have also X Design, which is a simple design application available in the same set of application. And then if you want to share all that you've done, you have, for example, 3D Play, which is a web app and a mobile app to share in 3D the data that were created. You have the Swim application to share some posts and some comments around your work, and so on.
And yes, of course, we can also use Marketplace, use 3D Drive in order to share some files to the extended enterprise.
And so all this is included in the role in the 3D Generative Innovator. So what's something very important, it's a web application, so it's accessible anywhere, anytime on any device. You just need a web browser and a connected computer to the internet, and you're able to start the application, to retrieve your data, and to work. There is nothing to install on your computer. Everything runs in the browser. You always have the latest version of the browser. And what's also really important is that it's cloud computing, meaning if you have some complex calculation to be done, you don't need a powerful computer, you don't need a powerful laptop, as everything is calculated on the server side. So you just can start some very complex design, and it will be rendered on your smaller laptop. A quick word about the portfolio. So as I said, we have two different roles. The base role is 3D Innovator, which contains the 3D Experience platform and the X Design application. And if you want to work with X Generative Design, then you need this extension that goes on top of the first one, which is called 3D Generative Innovator. And all this is available on the cloud only. Okay, so now we'll have a look at different use cases and what you can do with X Generative Design in different industry, different disciplines, either in creative design, in architecture and construction, and for mechanical engineering and designers.
Yeah, something really interesting, in fact, is this product is not for a certain type of user. It's, I think, for a lot of use cases, a lot of domains, and this is really interesting.
And we have a lot of examples to show on what you can do with X Generative Design.
So to illustrate rapidly, first we have a gallery of images. We can just show some designs we have done at Dassault Systems rapidly to illustrate the product. So it's really interesting. You see some engineering stuff, for example. Also some renderings of creation we have done.
Artistic stuff created.
Inspired by Kango Kuma
work. Some car wheels based with some kind of advanced pattern, and some renderings that were done with this design.
And other stuff like, in fact, it's really impressive the things you can do with this product.
Yeah, and we really had a lot of fun creating that. It's really a powerful tool, but it's very accessible also. So you can, the learning curve is really fast, and it's really fun to use. You can do a lot very easily.
And the last pictures are from a hackathon we have done, in fact, regarding construction and architecture challenge.
Creating very quickly some buildings with the application. Okay, so thank you, Edouard. Now I will invite on stage another expert that will show us some examples in mechanical engineering. So welcome, Juan.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. So today I'll be walking you through the various aspects and the values that Mark and Edouard just discussed, and how you can use these values to really design some complex mechanical structures, mechanical designs. So the more traditional sort of designs that CATIA users or CAD users normally work on.
But we bring a lot of new value to those users.
Exactly. So here we have an example of the escalator. Now, as you know, an escalator, it looks rather simple when you look at it, but there are a huge number of components that go into the design of an escalator. And also, if you notice, not one escalator is the same as all the others. There are many configurations, parameters,
Yeah, and it has
types.
to be adapted to each new context where it's built, right?
Exactly. And that's what we are trying to show here. So we are in the context of maybe a shopping mall or a building where some escalators need to be designed. So we have an escalator designed already with some geometry features. We start off with some very basic geometry elements like you do.
Yes.
And then we, of course, complement them with surfaces and volumes and other parameters.
Okay.
And like Edouard showed us the possibility to create some parameters that you would like to use to explore designs, we've set up some parameters here for this escalator.
So those parameters are the chosen ones, the most important in the design, and the one we want to edit directly.
Exactly. So now I'm going to make some changes to the parameters here. So for example, I'm going to change the step length parameter.
Okay, so we have created here some kind of product configurator. In fact, you have the main parameters of your stair, and you can just edit them, and you have a live update. The geometry is automatically and live updated and recreated. So you can very easily edit some parameters and see your result in real time.
Absolutely. And also what's interesting is we've included some design checks all within the same model. So in the form of some color coding and things like that. What we are able to see now, for example, I introduced a value for the length between the truss members here. And I found out that given the shape of the escalator here, and the value that I've introduced, it's actually not compliant. So it tells me, it turns red, and it tells me that the value is not good.
Okay, so it's not only about creating geometry, it's also about checking if your design is compliant with the company rules or standard rules and so on.
Exactly, and it's a very quick way of introducing the rules as well. We face normally in CAD applications, it can be quite challenging to introduce some formulas, some rules and things like that. But using X generative design and what Edouard showed us, introducing some formulas and things like that, it's actually quite simple and very quick to introduce these and also to make changes to them. So you don't have to struggle in any way to introduce these values. So really, X generative design is not just about creating visual aspects. It's about capturing the intent of your design. And we can do that very well using this application. So here, once again, I'll just make some more changes just to show how so I made a bad change there. But now
so it goes the other side. But once again, the update is very, very quick. So everything is regenerated.
Exactly. And it shows how once you capture all this information, it can be applicable for multiple in multiple areas.
You just define the right inputs and you're able to duplicate your design.
Exactly. So I'm going to make one last parameter change before I move on to show how this design was created. Just a bit more of the details. Again.
So we are red again. Something goes wrong.
Something goes wrong. So again, just an example of how all of this works. Okay, good. So now I'm just going to pop back into the presentation. So this is just what we saw. And here I want to quickly show some aspects of the escalator design. So the complete escalator design is actually controlled by just 2 points. And what we are seeing now is how the design progresses from basic wireframe elements to the more complex surfaces with all the rules and parameter values.
So as you can see, it's all started with a collection of objects, a divide, in fact, on the curve, just to create all the steps of the stair.
Absolutely. And also what I want to highlight here is what you're seeing is a conceptual model, a skeleton model, if we can call that.
Yeah.
Because it is possible, and this is the main values of being on the platform. What you do in the X Generative Design application, you can open this model in the native application, which has all the rich commands and
For detailed
functionalities
design,
for detailed
manufacturing,
design.
and so on. Yeah.
So you can use the geometry elements that you've created to enrich it with actual products, with actual components from catalogs, from configuration management, and so on.
Okay.
So the design that you do here, it's not just for visual representation.
Mm-hmm.
It has complete
It
scalability.
can really be
and
detailed design, finished design, right?
exactly. So we just saw, I think we saw the example of changing some parameters. What I want to highlight after is the fact that as we are dealing with a collection of objects,
Yes.
and as X Generative Design allows you to do this, you can start your design with just making sure that you're capturing the right elements,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very, very simple to scale that.
Yeah.
And you can see that here, that in the context, what we've done is given the inputs for this particular area, the number of escalators that are required, we see that we are very quickly able to generate 7 models of
You
escalators.
put of escalators everywhere in your model.
I love escalators now. And so I'm again rapidly just showing how robust this can be in terms of just modifying the points.
So you change the input points and everything is regenerated
exactly.
live.
So this is the graph view now
Yeah.
for the escalator design. Now it looks complex when you start looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
When you first look at it,
Because there is a lot of operations.
there are a lot of operations. But anyone who's familiar with any sort of CAD tool, you're familiar. You're used to seeing like a tree of objects.
Mm-hmm.
What the graph, to me at least, is like a horizontal tree. It shows you not just the elements in your design, but also the links and the relations
Yes.
between those elements. And it can be very, very quick to make some changes, to try different approaches. And all of that really helps you design very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we recently worked on some projects with Edouard, and what we noticed is, in fact, collaboratively, we are able to try out different strategies for design very quickly. And in 15 minutes, we tried 4 different strategies for a design, and we were able to pick which is the best strategy, which is the best alternative. And the graph is really like a whiteboard with all your geometry features, and people who are contributing can see and edit and make changes and so on. So it's really a good way of designing collaboratively as well. Also, another aspect I want to quickly highlight is the fact that you can output some KPI values. So you can see the results of your design visually as well as in terms of numbers. So engineers not just want to see the design, they want to also see some numbers and outputs.
So once again, it's not only about geometry, it's also about different values input, values output, and etc.
Exactly. And what you're capturing here, like I mentioned earlier, when you are using the full power of the 3D experience applications, all this information can be reused very quickly to build complex assembly structures.
Reused in other application of the platform.
Absolutely. And so I think that's what I would like to showcase today.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you. And now we'll switch to Bertrand, who will show us some great examples on architecture and construction. Hello, Bertrand.
Yes, bonjour, Marc.
Bertrand is going to show us some great example of what you can do with X Generative Design in architecture and construction, right?
Yes, it's an example of a canopy. And so a canopy in the general language is the upper side of the tropical forest facing the sky, but in architecture it's just an envelope of the building.
Okay.
And it's a challenging part of architecture because very frequently, like in this example, every panel is unique and needs to be manufactured individually.
Okay, it seems that there is a lot of panels here.
Yes, I think there's about 800 or a little bit more.
Okay, so very difficult to manage it one by one.
Exactly, you cannot design them one by one. So you have to automate the design of this panel. So how it works, at the beginning there is an architectural gesture. Somebody makes this shape as a surface, and then in X generative design we will cut this into little triangle, and it's a very pleasant activity because the tool is nice to use. It's easy and it's agile, so you can make a modification and try something else to see how it looks and how it goes.
Okay.
And once it's done, the result is available on the CATIA Rich client. So it's a full digital continuity, and not only you have the automation of the generation of the panel, but also you have the complete workflow from the preliminary surface to the detailed panel. So it makes the modification problem so much easier. For example, if you notice that there is a reflection issue with your canopy here, for example, the sun doesn't reflect well somewhere, you simply need to modify the preliminary surface and update only the drawings that needs to be changed. In case you make this modification very late in the process, you don't need to redo everything again.
As everything is associative and part of the platform.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. In this video, we are seeing now a rendering computation of this model, and it's used to see how it is going to look like. And of course, there are many other simulations that we can do, like the weight and balance, the effect of the sun, the shadow, and the structural of this thing, the structural resistance of this canopy. And it's one of the models that we are using for our tutorial that is free on the web, available for everybody. And you will find all the detailed information on the CATIA user community. Thank you.
Okay, so it's very impressive. We can see all the reflection and the transparency of all the different panels.
Yes, we put materials on this, so we can have a better render.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bertrand. So we are now done with this webinar. Thank you all for attending. If you have some questions, you can contact us directly through the community, the CATIA community, or through the email address given at the beginning. We'll be very happy to answer, to address if you have some specific use cases for your industry. We are always interested in what we can do with X generative design. Thanks a lot and see you soon.
Well, thank you to you all for having attended this webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. You will find the webinar recording in the CATIA user community, where you can ask more questions if you want, and we will answer you. You can also write us to CATIA.contact at 3ds.com if you prefer an email response. Please note also that we will have our next webinar in 2 weeks, focusing on CATIA function-driven generative design for lightweight engineering. Thank you, and bye.